You know, I was at Pioneers, and they asked me about the 7 generations, right? The way they do, because our Native American friends always tout the 7 generations thinking, right? And now it comes out here and they go 7 generations, 25 years, and then that's 175 years. We should do urban planning with 170. My grandfather said, no, that's not it at all. He said, every human being, if they're lucky, is 5 generations. They know their grandparents, they know their parents, they know their peers, they know their children, and they know their grandchildren. Right? If they're lucky and they live a solid life, they're 5 generations walking. The 6th generation is anybody who ever came before you. All of your ancestry, all the way back to the originating DNA. The 7th generation, anybody that's ever coming after you. Right, and that's so when they tell you 7 generations thinking, the elders, what they're saying is, there is no decision you make that is not for all time, right? If I decide to stand up right now and go to the bathroom and end this interview, for all time, right? If I have a cheeseburger, for all time, right? Bad decision. Should have thought about what I was doing. There is no decision we make as human beings that is not for all time. Right? So we actually live in the permanence of the action of our lives. But we take it for granted. We think, nah, it's just Tuesday. I got next week Tuesday, right? It's like, maybe you do, maybe you don't, right? It's a real given. But what you do have is the present moment, right? What you do have is the ability to be that better person right in this moment, right? Right in this moment. Knowing the past exists, knowing the future is coming, and yet operating just in this moment for the benefit of the young, for the benefit of the elderly. Now, there's one other rule that she gave me, which my mom said is the most important rule. And that is, are the women unafraid? She said, when you look out at the dinner table into your sister's eyes, or my eyes, do you see fear? If you do, then do something about it, right? It's like, don't just sit there. Make sure the women are unafraid, right? If the women in our society, our village, our community are unafraid, they take care of the first 2 things of making sure that the children are fed and the elderly are comfortable, right? But it falls apart when the women are undermined in their ability to keep our society moving. So Hawaiians, Kanaka, we are matriarchal, right? Our grandmother is the head of the family. Our great-grandmother is like a goddess. No one is going to question her about anything. Grandpa, he's outside at the barbecue lying about the fish he almost caught, right? It's like, that's a whole different thing. And in Polynesia, we have this saying, if you want to talk about something, get all the men together. And that's it. That's the saying, right? It's like the women know the other half of that saying, right? It's like, but if you're trying to get something done, right? It's like, I would look somewhere else, right? So I was raised in that kind of matriarchy. When I reached boarding school at 11, English boarding school, Punahou, by the way, right? And I realized, wait a minute, there's a patriarchal look to this society. I don't see the women being honored the way they were honored in our village or coming up. Right, and I wonder about that. They were like, well, you know, it's a man's world, blah, blah, blah. We just, I'm like, I'm sorry. Even years later, it's about the mitochondria. Right, the mitochondria is actually passing down through the women's biological. No, it is not a man's world. You just delivered one chromosome, right? The other 23 are coming from the woman. What do you mean you're the dominant factor, right? You are definitely not the dominant factor, right? It is definitely the female gender that is progressing the race forward. When we make women take the names of their husband, we're doing a disservice to the children and the further offspring, because we're getting further and further away from the genetic information we need to understand their physical condition, because we lost track of where the female mitochondria or that line came from. So when we as Polynesians remain matriarchal, we're not doing it because, you know, we think the girls are great. We're doing it because the science suggests, the natural world suggests that the women are in fact the norm of the species. The men are the mutation in the species, right? And they're mutated to assist in the procreation, right? That's it. And by God, they only deliver one chromosome, right? So it's not much of an assist. It's just kind of a spark, you know? And so I could sit here as a man and chuckle about it, but the truth is, without the women in my family, we don't have the backbone. We don't have the structure of our family. Without Auntie Mary, Auntie Mimi, Auntie Mona, my Auntie Keala, my mom, I wouldn't actually know these things. I was just lucky enough as a young child to be left in the kitchen with these women, to actually learn and hear the stories, right? They wanted me to learn and hear the stories. I got to tell you, when I was young, I thought it was like prison. I'm like, why can't I be outside playing with everybody else, right? And they'd be like, be quiet and go get me a cup of tea, right? And it's again, and pay attention, you know what I mean? And then so I was like, why? And they were like, one day they will come to rely on you. Right? And I was like, why would they do that? Right? It's like any other human being. Well, why are they going to do that? I just, you know, so at 18, I did what everybody else does. I cut out and went to New York City, right? Because I wanted to be a rock and roll star, not a community capacity builder or, a community activist. And I had a great career as a rock and roll musician, right? I even played Carnegie Hall, which is like the mecca for musicians, right? And got to play my own original music there. And I took my mom to New York City when I played Carnegie Hall, put her in the front row. So when I came out on stage, I went, everybody, my mom, right? And she was like, oh my, I guess your music actually paid off. I said, thanks, Mom. But she thought I was wasting my time being a musician because my uncles are all no good Hawaiian musician bums, right? So she was like, you are not going to be a musician. You're going to be a lawyer or a doctor Turns out I went to pre-law anyway, right? And ended up being a scientist and a bunch of other stuff. But rock and roll musician first. And there's no reason you can't be an artist, and a community capacity builder and a scientist. And in my case, a recovering academic, right? I try to stay off the campuses, but I find myself being called on to lecture with students, right? And so, is it confusing how to be human? Absolutely. Do we have any guideposts? Everything from literature to your kid sister, right? Who's trying to help you understand what your role is, right? And how open are you to being of service, right? How open are you to assisting, right? And that's invariably in the end, that's what happened to me. I couldn't stand by and watch the pain, watch the discomfort, without coming back out into community and addressing the policymakers and governance and saying, no, this is wrong. We cannot continue to abuse our communities with corporate structure, with governance extraction, right? And then come back and ask them why they're not healthy, right? You've robbed us of our capacity to be who we are, and then you, as the government, assert that we need to do a better job at being community. It's like, I'm sorry, right? You're one of the causations for our collapse. So what to do? Well, we could hold another election, right, and elect another policymaker who's going to just fall in line with the rest of the machine the way it always, or we might organize around our faith-based communities or around our intellectual communities, school communities, right? Any number of slices at the community look, but definitely community, right? And then create an awareness that looks like this mathematical equation. It's a W and it's an E, lowercase to the X power over a capital M and a capital E. So it's the power of we over me, right? And it's this idea that actually we're really literally in this life together, right? Literally interrelated, in relationship. And as the butterfly wing might create the hurricane on the other side of the planet, then for certain, a 7-year-old girl's pain is felt by all who witness it, right? And why do we witness it in silence, right? Why don't we step up to the plate and assist? Because each of us has that calling. Each of us can see that little girl, and we want to. What makes us not? Decorum, right? A misunderstanding of what, our intentions might be. My grandfather would say, screw your intentions, just get over there and help, right? It's like, just get over there and help. She's crying, she's in pain. Do not walk past her as if she doesn't matter, right? It's like, stop, inquire. What can you do to assist this moment, right?